Well, we are in New York still, where the sentencing hearing is on pause for Sean Diddy Combs after a jury found Combs guilty on 2 prostitution-related charges in July. Our team tells us the court is on that lunch break. That will go on until 2 p.m. Eastern. Gives the judge kind of some time to think about some of the testimony from Sean Diddy Combs' family. Let's talk about that. Going live to senior coordinating producer for the Crime and Public Safety Unit, Anna Schecter. Anna, give us a recap of what we've seen inside this morning and how it likely is going to weigh in the judge's mind.
Well, sure. We just heard that his children have spoken very emotionally before the judge, pleading with him to give their father a light sentence. So we heard from the children. We heard from defense attorneys characterizing him as an upstanding member of the community. And they also played an 11-minute video montage of home videos portraying him as a family man. So all of this is going to weigh in. The judge has seen all of this and he will take this into consideration. We also heard from the prosecution. They laid out in great detail their reasoning why they are asking for more than 11 years in prison as the sentence. So the judge said earlier today in court, sentencing guidelines give around 5 to 7 years. So we'll see what the judge decides later this afternoon. As you mentioned, they are on a break right now, and we expect to hear from more defense attorneys as soon as they get back, and then the judge will likely make his decision.
All right. So is there any indication, because you're hearing a lot of pro Sean Diddy Combs voices in the court before this lunch break, is there any indication that there's going to be a counterpoint on the other side of the break?
Well, it's a great question. We were expecting to hear from a victim under the pseudonym of Mia, who was going to speak for about 5 minutes.
Right.
But she said that she will not be speaking. There was a letter presented to court by the legal defense team, and given that letter, because of the tone of that letter, she has backed out. There was some discussion between prosecutors and defense attorneys and the judge about that earlier this morning. So we shall see. There might be a statement given by a former employee, but all of that is sort of being negotiated, and we're going to hear exactly who will be speaking next as soon as they come back from their lunch break. The judge said that will be at 2 p.m., so in about a half an hour, Reed.
Anna Schecter, watching it all, thank you so much. We appreciate you keeping our national and international audience updated as this plays out. So let's continue the conversation more from a legal perspective. CBS News legal contributor Caroline Polisi joins us now for more. I haven't talked to you for a while. So first of all, it's great to see you on the screen.
I know.
So Combs' legal team.
Too.
Yeah, they really pulled out all the stops right now before this break. What do you make of their tactics? Because with the video, they're kind of showing their cards, their game plan, so to speak. How does the judge weigh all of these statements?
Yeah, they did. They're really laying it on thick. And to be honest, Reed, things like these videos, letters, don't have that much of an impact. What really is the most means the most to a judge in these situations are the sentencing guidelines calculations. And we really got quite a bit of news earlier in the first part of this hearing today, which is that the judge is actually adopting the probation department's view of the sentencing guidelines, which is 70 to 82 months, which, as Anna said, is 5, 6, 7 years in that range. We heard prosecutors were advocating for an 11-year sentence based on the guidelines, and the defense attorneys wanted basically time served, 14 years. But that's all based on their interpretation of what the federal sentencing guidelines say. So now we know that the judge believes that the range in which he should be looking is that 70 to 82 months range. Now, of course, he can depart from that. It's called downward departures or upward departures. The sentencing guidelines are just that. They're advisory. But he'd have to take into consideration all of these things that are being presented by both the prosecution and and defense. Prosecutors really want the judge to take into account the violence that he perpetrated, especially that video we saw of Cassie, of him just brutally beating Cassie in 2016. So we'll see how that plays into his analysis of which end of the spectrum he's going to sentence on.
Right, because I was going to ask you, if it looks like it's going to be sentencing guidelines sort of guiding the judge as to what decision is made, and not perhaps some of those more positive family-oriented videos and pleadings that we saw before the break, does that same sort of thinking come in line with the beating video that went viral all over the world and then was presented in court?
Yeah, look, you have lawyers arguing for what are called 3553A departures, so either aggravating or mitigating circumstances. I mean, that video showed his philanthropic work, how dedicated he was as a father, things like that. I mean, those would be mitigating circumstances. Aggravating circumstances obviously would be his history of drug use, domestic violence. However, they've countered that by saying he's gotten clean in prison, he is committed to a life free of crime, and he will continue working with a therapist and or doctors to continue on this path. So, it's really, sentencing is both really a science and an art, and there's a lot of discretion for the judge here. I think it depends on which version of events and which sort of version of Sean Combs he sees that will impact whether or not he really deviates much from that guidelines range.
A lot of eyes on the guidelines and the events and also the judge. It's so great to talk to you. Hope to see you back here very soon on CBS News 24/7. You have a good weekend, my friend.